person, Lauren Noll. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm doing okay. I've been up for about half an hour, so I'm trying to get with it. But it's a bit later in the day yesterday for you. Have you had a
Yes,
good day so far?
time traveled. I have. Yes, I've been to my yoga class. Very, very exciting, and popping in here to chat with you before the rest of the day takes off.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Speaking of yoga, like, is that something that helps your mindset when you're acting, like keeping fit and your body to its maximum, or is it just something you do as a, pastime?
No, I think you're right. I do. I mean, it's certainly, film being a visual medium, it helps. I think it just depends. I think, I'm happy to see Hollywood's embracing, a lot of like body
Yes.
positivity and body inclusivity. And I think you just have to know what your own body is and does, and how it, best presents for the types of roles you play on camera, and do your own best for your own health and well-being, for whatever's right for you. But for me, yoga is as much of a mental fitness practice as it is a physical fitness practice, and something I very much enjoy. And I do.
Yeah, that's really good. Good to hear. And is acting something that you fell into, or was it always going to be the case? Were you always performing when you were a young child?
I was, yeah, from the time I think I started acting maybe in high school. I was doing more singing and like
Okay.
choral stuff before that. But yeah, ever since I was young, I don't know. I was the girl in fourth grade who asked my choir teacher to give me a solo. It's very annoying, but I always did want to be performing, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. And is music and singing something you incorporate or you'd like to incorporate into some shorts or some features?
I just did, actually. I shot a film in Texas in May, and
Yep.
I played the role was a sort of an aspiring country singer, and there's a
Ah,
song in that. Yeah. But I come from a musical theater background, so I used to use my voice in that way a lot more than I do now that I'm focusing on film.
sure. I think film is my favorite medium, but I'll take musical theatre and everything I possibly can. I really appreciate the art of acting, although I can't myself. What about writing and directing? I know that you've done some productions, but is that something down the track? Are you writing a feature maybe, or is that?
I'm developing a feature with a friend of mine right now, Dahlia, that I've made a couple of short films with. She's the
Yeah.
primary writer, but we usually do develop the story together. And I have written for my own shorts. I was a co-writer on this short film that I just made in Texas, and I wrote the first short film that I ever made as a filmmaker, aside from only acting.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, I do get invested in. I don't necessarily always want to be the person who puts pen to paper, but I really love developing stories.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the current, as we speak, there's still a current writers' strike. What's your views on that? I mean, it's quite
Oh,
significant, and I think it's so great what they're doing. But is there any progress, like from your end? Are you seeing anything that might change?
I I'm not sure in terms of where the streaming companies are in their negotiations with the writers. I
Yeah.
I support the writers 100%, and I think they should be paid appropriately. And I
Yep.
hope that they come to an agreement that really satisfies their own interests. So for me, hands down, that's the number one the number one priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, but auditions have slowed down. I mean, that's the nature of it. I don't think there's any major productions happening at the moment.
No.
The only thing I've auditioned for has been commercials and solely independent film
Okay.
projects in the last little while. Yeah.
Now, I recently saw you in James Lee, his short.
Yes.
Uh, and he's the one who put me in contact with you. And I asked because you really stood out in his movie. It's almost like a one-shot movie, one-room movie. First of
Yeah.
all, your character starts out quite seductive and nice, and then
Mhm.
gets kind of all over the place and offbeat. Was it fun to play? It looked like it was a nice
Yeah,
little.
yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah.
fun thing about that film was we, you know, it was made in a very short duration of time.
Yeah.
I think it gives you either there's no there's no time to sort of sit back and question yourself. You sort of have to lean into your impulses,
Yeah.
and that made it really fun. Yeah.
The office was very fancy. I know you didn't have much time in there to film, but the artwork and just the production design was pretty much
I
fantastic.
know. I
It
know he
looked
did a
like a
great
real
job.
set.
Yeah, yeah, he did a great job with the location scouting. I think he had a producer that he was working with,
Mm.
who sort of helped him land that.
And that dress you wore, was that one of yours? It was a great
It
dress. Really
fine.
suited
So
you and the character.
it's apparently it's the Fleabag jumpsuit. Have you
Ah,
watched Fleabag?
yes.
It's one of my favorites. And you know, I don't think I even remembered that. I guess
No.
maybe it's the second season, the first episode. She wears it, and then ever since then, the sales for that particular jumpsuit just skyrocketed. And I didn't I don't know. I loved the show and I had watched all of it, but I hadn't been so observant to pick up on
No.
that. I just sort of bought it secondhand from a friend, and then all of a sudden, anytime I wear it, I get that commentary like, "Oh, it's the Fleabag jumpsuit." So anyway,
Well, one, it works. And now that you've brought it up, you're right. I have watched, because there was only 2 series. And a couple of years ago, I probably watched them now. But
uh,
yeah, that's the jumpsuit. I didn't realize that was so popular in real life, but the sales obviously went up
apparently
through the roof.
you couldn't get your hands on them anywhere for a while. Yeah,
Well, hang on to yours, definitely.
I will. I won't give it up now.
Well, most of the story is based around Bitcoin. That's an interesting subject because I don't know anything about it other than what I read or see in movies. Have you ever had experience in Bitcoin, or was it just
I
the
mean,
role?
I dabbled. I have not any sort of significant amount of money in it, but I, you know, just like everyone else, I think it's we all watched the ones who got lucky, who jumped in early.
Yeah.
And then so we all were like, well, I better get a piece of that. But when it was sort of too late to make a difference, I guess I'll leave it in there. But I'm not very knowledgeable about it either. I had to do a bit of sort of dissecting of the script and researching, in fact, in order to be able to speak
Yeah.
about it with any sort of level of believability at all.
Well, it was all gravitas. You were great. I thought, you were very believable. And I think short films are paving the way a lot of the time for actors to really just do their thing in and out, but make a point. And I love short films. There's obviously Dances with Films is a great initiative. You've been part of that. Can you tell me
I did.
your
Yeah,
experience?
my short film Gen V
Okay.
played actually as a web pilot, because we do have a short form episodic development for that, but it was initially made as a short film.
Okay.
With the door open for extension from there. But that was with one of my other main collaborators, Dahlia Rooney. I don't act in that film, actually. I directed it, and
Okay.
I developed the concept with her. It actually sort of was a marriage of a pilot that I already had and a pilot that she already had, and we sort of combined the two worlds for that.
That's
And
good.
she wrote and she played the lead in it, and I directed it.
Oh, well done. And did you have a great response from the audience or any
Yeah,
producers,
yeah,
other producers or distributors in the crowd talk to you?
absolutely. We played with this really fun full length television pilot,
Yeah.
and we had a great time. Theirs was a sort of a reality piece about this really wild haunted house of sorts, but it's a very, very interactive haunted house. And then ours is this sort of comedy thriller about vampires, but it's narrative. And I think there's a lot of sort of interest between the
Yeah.
two teams about each other's projects. But yeah, we have a little bit we have a number of sort of stakes in the fire there that we're keeping our eyes on. That's a story that we're definitely planning on continuing with. It's near and dear to both mine and Dolly's heart. Yeah, and there is a fun moment for the audience. There's a really fun moment that every time it comes up, it gets like this really visceral vocal response from the audience. And so yeah, that's sort of the name of the game with that one, is just
Nice.
keeping sort of the theme and the societal, cultural, like, you know, themes and allegories alive while we just punch people in the gut as much as we can.
Well, that's what you want to do, make a lasting impression, and something that when they're walking out of the cinema or the screening room to talk, create discussion. So that sounds like that did, which is good.
Yeah, we had a fun time with that one.
And I love the name, Dances with Movies. I think that's just a terrific name. Combining Dances with Wolves, obviously one of my, it is one of the greats.
No, it's a great film festival. It's one of the best here in LA.
Yeah, and it's getting more traction because I know it's been around for a while, but now I'm hearing about it and I'm getting invited to cover different things at it. So I'm really glad it's branching out globally, because there's so many different global filmmakers going to do it.
Well, it's going on right now, I think, this year's.
Yeah.
It's I think I'm actually going to try and catch a friend's feature this Saturday night. But it's really it really is sort of, it's fun because it's one of those in LA that really supports the independent filmmaker.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about, you know, sort of the names and the celebrity and all of that. You get to, it's just, it's a celebration of independent film in a really sort of honest way. And at the Chinese Theater in LA, that's a really fun thing to see.
Yeah, you're not going to see Barbie at Dances with Movies.
No. No. Though I am excited to see Barbie.
Oh yeah. Well, Margot and Greta Gerwig, they're here in Sydney at the moment. They're kicking off their global tour. They're starting here. They've been out and about at Bondi Beach and different places around Sydney the last couple of days. So yeah, it's gonna be saturated. At the time of recording this, Barbie has got about 2 or 3 weeks, about 2 weeks until it's released. But I don't think people realize how huge it is going to be across all demographics. It's going to be popular.
The movie of the year for sure.
When it comes to acting, do you have any scene partners or people that you admire that you haven't worked with yet? I'm sure there's a whole list, but is there any actors that you admire that you'd like to work with and maybe write a script for one day?
Gyllenhaal, I'm coming for you. Yeah, no, actually, I think I would really love to work with him. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a list person. I'm not like a favorites person. Obviously, like that. I sort of take everything as it comes to me, and I'll take note of what resonates with me and what doesn't. But there's a number of people that I would love to work with.
Yep.
I had a great time. I got to act as a casting director on my most recent short and sort of play a hand along with my co-writer and the director of the project in selecting primary scene partner for the most recent short film that I did. And we found this really wonderful actor, Carlos Cravioto, who is honestly primarily only acted in Mexico City his entire career. And he has a really vast career, a lot of very impressive credits in that market. But we got to work with him on his first American film project. And it was just our little film, but we put a lot of heart into it, and he gave an excellent performance. And I think sometimes the scene partners I'm looking for, I maybe haven't heard of before, and I find them in these really amazing ways.
Yeah, no, I'm really stoked to hear that, because I think independent film, I've always been an advocate for small productions, because they can really have talent bursting out of them that are unknowns.
I mean, myself included, I'm in LA and I'm doing the hustle and everything, but my resume is made up of independent films, and and it's really exciting for me when we get to be seen and for our inside of our own stories as well.
Yeah.
That's I came out here just to pursue acting, but since have been bitten by the filmmaking bug, and that's the thing that I love the most about it, is sort of the ownership of the story.
Yeah. What about being in LA, an actor and filmmaker? Have you had any hurdles? And I know things have changed with Time's Up and the Me Too movement, but have you experienced anything that
Oh,
unsavory?
oh, sure. I mean, yes, I don't know a single woman who hasn't.
Yeah, sadly, I know.
But I mean, since I've been in LA, I think when I was coming to LA, it was sort of as that was peaking and as that was sort of coming about, and
Got
a
it.
lot of people began to be very careful. So I can't speak to any sort of, big major
Good.
occurrences. I think we all have our share of them. I mean, I think there's been a number of times where I was like, I met someone who seemed to be interested in my work, or I thought, like an agent, for instance. I was working at a gym when I first got to LA as a personal trainer, and
Yeah.
he, I met this guy, and he was well intentioned. Nothing, he didn't do anything wrong per se. Nothing bad or unsavory happened. But I think he was an agent. He sort of leaned into me, and in my head, I'm new to LA, and I'm like, oh, like maybe
Sure.
this is blossoming of a professional relationship. And turns out later he reached out and he was just trying to get a date, and you know what I mean. These
Yeah.
they happen, things happen, but
No, I get it. It can use your authority or a job stance and use it to meet people, I guess. That's what people try and do and have done. What about outside of acting and filmmaking? What do you do? Do you just go surfing? Do you go roller skating down Venice Beach?
Well, so I am sort of a bit of a fitness enthusiast. So
Yes.
I do love my yoga practice, and I do strength training 3 times a week. That one of my sort of side hustles was personal training in LA for a while, and that's
Nice.
something I'm up with. I love traveling. My fiance is actually a musician. She's a drummer, and so as of
Awesome.
late, I've been attending a lot more concerts because
The groupie.
yeah, I know. I know. I never thought that would be me, but it is really fun to sort of be able to tag along with her and watch her shine and do her own thing and be the star. Yeah, I mean, I play on a queer women's kickball team. That's a lot of fun. We get pretty competitive and intense about it, but then we just hit the bars in WeHo afterwards for a Sunday afternoon. It's a good time.
Good.
Yeah.
When you go to a concert, you should set it up so you can film some natural footage of the band and the crowd, and then incorporate that into a short film, maybe.
I know. I wish I was more of a cinematographer myself. I got to bring a camera guy with me, but I did tell her I've got to let her. I got to get one of her band's music videos, one of their upcoming music videos.
Yeah.
I just shot a music video in February of this year, director, and that was a lot of fun. And then I sort of had only been interested in just the narrative film for a while, but now I'm starting to explore some of the other kinds.
That's great. How did you meet your fiance? Was it film related, sport related, music related?
There's a long version of the story, but we met at a concert, actually, not hers, a handful of years ago. And every time we tell the story, we can't remember who the artist was, because we had both been just like sort of mutually invited to this concert, and it was a thing to do for the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rest is history.
That's fantastic. A couple more before we wrap up. Now, for the record, what does the C stand for in Lauren C. Noll?
Curtis. That's my middle name. I used to, as a child, I was so ashamed of it, and I never wanted anyone to.
Really?
Boy's name. Now we could have a whole different conversation about gender, but no, it's a family name. It happened to be there was a sort of passed down tradition on my mom's side of the family that the firstborn grandchild would take the maternal grandfather's name is the middle name. So like my mom's middle name is Lawrence, which was her mom's dad's name. So my mom's dad's name was Curtis. And that was sort of passing down of that. Didn't matter, you know, the given the assigned gender or sex of the baby when they were born. But then it happened to also be my dad's mom's maiden name.
Wow. Okay. So there's a link.
If you can track that. So my dad's mom's name was Betty Curtis before she was married to my grandpa. So there were these two sides, and now I really love carrying that name.
Well, I like it. I think it suits you. It's very cool and it's unique.
I used to think about dropping the Noll and just being Lauren Curtis, but then I found this sort of online YouTube makeup artist who would take over all the Google space, who had already sort of established herself.
You know, I've always thought it didn't matter about gender, and especially even when I was becoming a movie journalist and movie analyst and so forth and reporting, there'd be like Cameron Diaz and Glenn Close. You know, I always thought, well,
oh sure, yeah, no, I love sort of gender neutral or like names.
Same, yeah. So I love Curtis. It's cool.
Thanks.
Also, have you been to Sydney? Have you been to Australia in general?
I've never been to Australia, and in the last couple of years, I've made so many friends with Australians in LA. I feel like I owe it to them.
Half of Australia is over in LA, I think. I've heard.
Oh, they're all here. So since I moved to LA, I've found them, many of them.
We have such a production line of strong actors and filmmakers and writers that make their name here in smaller films or television series, soap operas, and then just go to LA and kick ass. Basically, we have a great reputation for that. It's good.
Absolutely.
And finally, what's the end game for you? It might be different for you as an actor and a director, but what's your end game? Is there any pinnacle you want to get to, like show a feature at the Chinese theatre and have a premiere, or walk down a red carpet in Cannes or something? Do you have an end game or a goal?
I mean, yes, everyone does. I think there's the big picture, the lead in a television series that lasts 10 seasons.
Yes, that's tough.
For accolades or your big studio blockbuster hit. But I think I've started to view things in sort of smaller, more tangible steps along the way. And I do think the next step for me is I love acting, hands down. And I began writing and directing sort of as a vehicle for my own acting. But again, as I said, that's taken on a life of its own. And I really love having ownership in film. And I think the next step for myself, and I believe this is going to be a partnership with, again, Dahlia Rooney, who I brought up, is our own feature film. Which we're going to develop together. Probably she's going to write, I will direct, and then we will both have roles in as well. And I love seeing that more and more now, even on larger spaces where there are actors that are taking over directing an episode of their series or even a feature. It's really exciting to see people wearing multiple hats and taking control of the narrative.
Yeah, pilots are such a tough thing because there's so many that go into the mix and only so many can come back out again. So it's a tough gig, and you're doing well so far, obviously.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And before we go, we are at least you're 1 degree away from Jake Gyllenhaal, because I did get a chance to interview him and Hathaway when they were here for a movie called Love and Other Drugs about 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I really like that guy.
Yes. Oh, he's talented. He and his sister. And it goes way back to his dad as well, of course, director.
Sure. I guess I can't speak to him as a human, but I like him as an actor. And yeah, well, next time you see him, let him know.
I wish. He did sign my Donnie Darko special edition DVD cover, so I treasure that. It was very cool. I mean, he was a nice guy to chat with. such as
fun.
yourself. Very interesting guy.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's pretty much it. And I just want to say thank you for your time. Is there any last things you'd like to say? Where can people find you or find your work, or can you recommend something that you've done people can check out?
Yes, sure. I mean, on Instagram is where I'm most active, if at all, on social media, and
Yeah.
that's Lauren LAUREN _ Noll
Yep.
NOLL. Everyone wants to throw in a K. There is no K in my name. I currently I have a link to my first ever short film honor on my bio there, and there's Gen and Clean Slate. My other shorts are not currently available, but I will also be posting about the short that I just made, The Heart of Texas. We're really excited about that one, and we're in post-production right now, and we'll be hitting the festival circuit with that by early 2024, I believe, and I'll be posting where to find that as well.
Yeah, good. I want to actually watch that now. You've talked to me about it, and I want to see a lot more of your work in the future. But tell me, is everything bigger in Texas, or is that just a fallacy?
I think it is, though. I think it is. They make it so anyway. But politics aside, I've met some really wonderful people in Texas, and particularly at this film festival in Waco.
Okay.
Become a little kind of artistic community for me. It's called Deep in the Heart Film Festival. They're about to play in July. You should keep your eyes on that one as well. You might want to see their films. They're doing a really good job of curating a really nice selection of films for that festival, and every year they get bigger and they get more recognition, and they deserve it. They're doing great things. And then James Lee's short, I only participated in that as an actor, but I do know that he has plans to submit that one to festivals as well, and I'll be sure to post any of those things as they come along.
Yeah, good. I'll endorse them too on my end. James is a great director, and I think he's got a long future ahead of him as well. I'm glad that you both work together. It's good.
Well, yeah, me too. It was a fun time.